Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Dill, Kirby Smart, the Georgia Bulldogs, wrapping up spring practice Saturday afternoon with their spring game. And I'll start with this. If you're a Georgia fan, and I'm speaking kind of for Georgia fans here, Dill, I'm so fired up for what we're going to hear coming out of the spring game. This is a football team that we know has the ability to be very good in 2025. But what's different from this Georgia team that we've seen from others is that there's probably more questions than we're used to having for a Georgia team. Well, that's what, Dill. They got plenty of potential answers on this roster, and this spring game Saturday is an opportunity for a lot of the young talent on this team to kind of take advantage of this opportunity and show what you can be and mean for this team going into 2025. There are a lot of names that I want to shout out and kind of, for lack of better terms, kind of call my shot on names that I think are going to emerge coming out of the spring game. Fired up to get into it. Before we do, and as always, the Georgia fans, just want to say that thank you to you guys. The amount of support that Georgia fans have shown the boys over the last couple of days and weeks as we've kind of gone nitty gritty into this football team, it's been amazing. The support y'all have shown means the world to the fellas. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. Dill, secondly, look, we say this a lot. If you are checking this episode out on April 9th, chances are you live and breathe this football program. And chances are you got a name or two that you're most excited about to see on Saturday. Let it fly in the comment section. Dill, we might be leaning on the Georgia fans a little bit. The boys up here in Rochester, New York, we're probably not going to get eyeballs on this game immediately. I'll lean on the Georgia fans in the comment section to kind of, because I know a lot of y'all probably be going to the game that are listening to this. They'll fired up to get into this. Let's start with, one of the more exciting storylines, the quarterback position, of which, it sounds like Gunnar Stockton is taking this quarterback one job, not really looking back. What do you want to see from Gunnar Stockton Saturday afternoon in the spring game?
I think you fundamentally want confirmed what the reports have been coming out of practice, and that this offense is a little bit more explosive because you hope the running game gets back to what it was. You hope the offensive line can take that step and be kind of a vintage Georgia offensive line. But there's certainly questions about both those aspects of this game, and hence we've probably been talking a lot this spring and this winter about Georgia probably needing more from the quarterback spot this year. And it does sound like Gunnar Stockton has been giving them some elevation, let's say, in that offense. And I think that's what you want to see.
That is how I would phrase it. I think there are a lot of people, we kind of talked about this a couple of days ago. There are a lot of people who might be casual college football fans that might be part of the national media that look at Gunnar Stockton and assume this kid is just a game manager quarterback and that Kirby Smart's going to give him the nod because he ain't going to make mistakes. That people forget how talented Gunnar Stockton was coming out of high school. He's still that talented, and he's a guy that I do believe can elevate this offense and, quite frankly, offer a little bit more physically than maybe Carson Beck offered the last couple of years. And that's not a knock on Carson Beck. That's just the kind of quarterback Gunnar Stockton is. That's what I want to see, dude.
And frankly, he's kind of got the weapons to make it happen more than Carson Beck took the brunt of the criticism for that offense. But my God, those wide receivers were not particularly good for Georgia. You look with Colby Young coming back, Noah Thomas and Zachariah Branch, and then some of the young guys you've been hearing about, guys like Taylor Taylor, can a London Humphreys take a step and kind of look more like what we thought he was going to look coming from Vanderbilt. I think this pass catch room is far better. So I think you just want to see a really good explosive game from that offense, because I do think that's going to be kind of one of those pillars that Georgia's going to need to hang their hat on.
This is not what we've talked about. It certainly wasn't how we talked about Georgia in 2024. This offense has the capability of being a very explosive offense. They couldn't really find it in 2024. You have the pieces around Gunnar Stockton.
And you saw a very deliberate effort to get there. You saw what they did in the portal. You saw the freshmen they brought in that 2020
in it 2025. Yep. And I'll say this. It sounds like they hit. It sounds like they're happy with Zachariah Branch. I know he's dealing with the hamstring and we might not see him, but it sounds like they're happy with what they got from Zachariah. It sounds like they're happy from what they've got from Noah Thomas. It sounds like they're over the moon about the freshman wide receivers coming in. Your evaluations hit. Now it's about to put it on the field. One other thing I'll kind of note here, and I'm interested to hear the Georgia fans, again, this is kind of nitty-gritty conversation here, but I think it fascinates me. What do the wide receiver rotations / combinations look like? I have Noah Thomas playing the Z deal because I look at it and say I probably want Noah. I think he's a top 3 wide receiver on this football team. At least going back to the film from Texas A&M. Colby Young sounds like your true X wide receiver. Sounds like he's coming back into this program and being that guy. Well, I got to Noah Thomas, is kind of normally an X receiver. That's what he played at Texas A&M. Well, figure out a way to get him on the field. And so I'm interested to see the combinations where, hey, what are we doing with Noah Thomas? What are we doing with a guy like London Humphreys who could play the Z, could probably play the slot a little bit, could play the X2, and then Dylan Bell as well? Like, how are we using him as an offensive weapon? Really fascinated to see. And I don't think we'll get the chance to see how they want to use Zachariah Branch, even if he was healthy. I don't know if you'd see a ton of Zachariah Branch scripted plays, but I'm really excited to see how the wide receiver combination looks like. Dill, here's another. I mean, again, this is, you guys can tell I'm a little excited talking real fast here. The offensive line. Like, there are a ton of names. Now, there are some names I know are good football players. A guy like Micah Morris on the inside. No, he's good. Ain't got any question marks about him. But there are also some players that we're hearing the buzz out of spring. I kind of want to see it in the spring game. What are the players that excite you the most to kind of get some eyeballs on Saturday?
Honestly, it's probably got to be Bo Hughley and Juan Gaston. Those are the 2 guys who I'm really interested. Because we talked about it. You want this offensive line to be deeper than what it was last year. It didn't feel like they had great options after Ernest Green and Monroe Freeling. You'd kick Xavier Truss out there, but you really probably would have had him playing guard all year if you had your brothers and you were a Georgia fan. You want more depth in that tackle room. I look at Bo Hughley. Juan Gaston's an interesting one because we'll probably see him at guard. We might see him a little bit at tackle. Guard's more likely maybe this year for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he can play as a depth tackle piece as well. Yeah. And then, frankly, Jai Jackson's a wild card because hearing good things about him is fascinating because I would have thought he'd be a year 3, year 4 guy kind of making things happen.
I don't even think he's been on campus for 12 months. He's the basketball player.
He didn't play high school football, really. He was playing basketball.
Legit hooper, too. One of the best hoopers that we see in college football. To hear that he is working with the 2s and standing out this early on tells me, one, he might be ready to contribute even as only a depth piece in 2025. What is this kid going to look like in 2026, 2027?
But that's my pillars. I want to see those young guys look like they could go out there and play right now because you need to be deeper.
And Dill, I'll say this: the idea of them moving Juan Gaston to guard, which fires me up for immediately 2025. What does that tell you?
He'll play now.
Well, yes, I think so. I think it'd be a great guard right now as he gets that body right to move back out to tackle. But Dill, it tells me that they feel pretty good about the depth at tackle. You probably would not be moving Juan Gaston into guard if you did not feel good about your 2 deep tackles. I'm excited. And Dill, how about Ernest Green? Apparently he's kind of back to form. I want to see it. I want to see it on Saturday afternoon. Defensive side of the football, Dill, I guess you'd start with this. I'm going to go a little bit out of order here, but how are we using all these linebackers? And it's such a great problem to have if you're Kirby Smart and Glenn Schumann. All right, now it's kind of similar to how we talked about the wide receiver room and trying to figure out a role to get Colby Young and Noah Thomas on the football field. It's kind of what you're doing at this linebacker position too. Are we going to see 3 linebacker sets? Are we going to see guys like Chris Cole maybe come off the edge? Do you have a prediction or how do you approach this linebacker room, which to me is, and I know this is a hyperbolic statement to put out here on April 9th, but I mean, this could go down as the most talented linebacker room that we've seen in college football in a very long time, in 10 years.
Oh, and it's going to be up there. I think probably what would really tickle me if I was a Georgia fan is seeing Chris Cole be a really good edge rusher. That's probably the one.
Yeah, I agree.
Because again, and that's not to say Chris Cole is not going to be a really good off-ball linebacker at some point in his career, possibly. But when you talk about getting your guys on the field, C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson is one of the best inside linebacker combination. Well, not one of the best. It is the best by quite a bit. It feels like combination in the college football. You got to have Chris Cole on the field, though, probably 70-80%.
I'd say the same thing for Justin Williams, too. I'd say, and the blueprint's there. To me, it's like what you did with Jalen Walker. I'd like to see you some of the other linebackers like that. What Jalen Walker did for Georgia in 2024, it ain't common. You got to be a freak to do it. Well, you got those kind of bodies, those kind of freaks to do it as well in 2025, especially, Dill, as you maybe have some question marks about the pass rush production coming from the defensive line, which is kind of my next talking point here. The year 1, year 2, and then 1 year 3 guy. The year 1 guys starts with Elijah Griffin. We've heard great things. Can he be that guy as a freshman? It sounds like he is. Kind of want to see it Saturday. Year 2 guys. You look at a couple of them. Joseph Jonah, a guy like Justin Green, a guy like Quintavious Johnson generating some big time buzz coming off the edge. And I'd even throw a year 3 guy in Jordan Hall, who sounds to be having his best spring and his most healthy spring with Georgia as well. Jordan Hall, big time physical. I don't need to tell the Georgia fans
you've
that,
seen some really good things. I think it's been wildly inconsistent.
It's been a roller coaster, man,
so far.
Yeah.
But you've seen those flashes of like the power that like kind of made him what he was coming out of high school. So you just got to see it more often.
And look, why has it been inconsistent? At least in my opinion, is because he's been inconsistently playing. He's been on and off. With the injuries. This is his first kind of healthy spring for Georgia. Can you kind of show what you can do going in not only year 3 as a football player, but finally kind of full go healthy? Can Georgia be as disruptive on the defensive line as they've historically been? It's a staple for this Georgia defense. Can we get there? Look, you got the bodies. It's not necessarily a proven group outside of probably Kristen Miller, but you have the bodies. Now you got to put it on the football field. My last thing, Ellis Robinson. Like, I'm fired up to kind of hear that. He was a guy that I kind of expected to play year 1. Coming out of IMG Academy, that dude was about as polished up as it gets. Was kind of surprised he didn't get that many opportunities as a freshman.
Especially with the issues they were having at cornerback.
Yeah.
And you obviously saw them kind of go through Humphreys, and then Harris I think Harris did play more steady football than Humphreys was playing earlier in that season. But given your struggles there, I'm a little surprised too that you didn't see Ellis Robinson really at all.
Yeah, but you're hearing the right things, and that's how it works sometimes. Even the guys that we think are bona fide year 1 guys, sometimes it takes a year. And for Ellis Robinson, you're hearing the right things. You're going to have a lot of opportunity to show what you can do during the spring game. Really excited to see if he can emerge as a legitimate difference maker that we all know he has the capability of doing.
Well, then you talk about DeMello Jones kind of sitting right behind them. DeMello Jones is another guy who you're starting to hear some really good things. And again, that second cornerback spot does feel to an extent very up for grabs. And I'm not like Daniel Harris is perfectly capable of doing it, but I think it could be a better spot. I do think that job, like, I'm kind of
100%.
interested to see how they treat it and like how that rotation works. So, like, if you're a Georgia fan at that game, let us know, because I would really want to know who you kind of feel like is going to be that cornerback too.
Yeah, and I know who else I'm kind of excited about is Ja'Cory Thomas, a guy that is the classic. Give him all the credit in the world, man. Is kind of sat there and developed in Athens, and then when it's kind of finally your opportunity in 2020 going into 2025, they bring in 3 safeties. Well, it sounds like Ja'Cory Thomas kind of fending off all those competitors and maybe earning a spot. Who's playing opposite KJ Bolden in the safety room. All right. We'll close it down there. Really, really excited to kind of see how this spring game goes for Georgia. It sounds like it's going to be a legit one. Appreciate you guys. If y'all do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.